You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith. Hey there, Sprouts. Today is Monday, January 10th, 2021. This week on the Catholic Sprouts podcast, we are going to be wrapping up a series that we have been working away on all year, actually. And this has been a look at why the Catholic Church is the truth, why it is the true version of Christianity, why it is the church founded by Jesus Christ, and why it is the place where we receive the fullness of truth. So we've looked at this from tons of different angles. We proved that God exists, that religion is good, that Jesus founded our church. We have looked at how the Catholic Church through the ages has transformed society, built the foundation for science and charity and law. It has allowed so many people to become the best versions of themselves. Why Christianity, why the Catholic Church, more specifically, is a place where we can receive authentic forgiveness, why our teachings are timeless, and why the church protects beauty so much. So on this last point, beauty, we are going to look at what the church holds up as the most beautiful creation that God created. So what is most beautiful in the church's mind is humanity. As we look through the world, and of course, there's so many wonderful things that God has created, and there's so many wonderful things that we have created with God's permission. But the most wonderful creation is the human being. Now, the Catholic Church is very clear on why human beings are so beautiful and so important. We hear about this at the very beginning of the Bible in Genesis. God has created everything, and then as he is creating human beings, he decides to create us in his very image and likeness. So we are created in God's own image. Now, this is a big statement. It is big. To be created in God's image means three things. It means that we have the ability to reason, to think logically and make decisions. We also have free will. We are not robots. We also aren't animals. As you can probably tell, an animal is ruled by instinct, right? A cat isn't going to decide one day to just sit down and eat a salad. They will eat meat because that is their instinct. But human beings have free will. We can decide all sorts of things, and we can even decide on the big things, whether we will live a good life and follow God or not. And finally, because we are created in the image and likeness of God, we must act like God. And what is God? Well, the Bible tells us that God is love. Therefore, human beings have the ability to love and to love fully. We know, of course, that the most powerful example of love was Jesus Christ as he died on the cross, loving another so much that I am willing to suffer and die to give everything I have for them. Again, this is not something an animal is capable of. It is only humans because we are created in the image and likeness of God. Now, the Catholic Church, as we talked about in a previous week, strives to protect beauty. And because human beings are God's most beautiful creation, we strive to protect all human beings. There are 7 principles of Catholic social teaching. Now, these principles talk about our own rights because we were created in God's image, but also our responsibility to protect the rights of other people because they too were created in God's own image. Even if they aren't born yet, even if they're very old, even if they practice a different religion, speak a different language, live on the other side of the world, if they're very poor or very rich, it doesn't matter. Each person was created in the image and likeness of God. They are the most beautiful creation, and therefore we need to acknowledge their innate dignity and our duty, our responsibility to make sure that they are treated as a beautiful child of God. So when we think about beauty, we don't just think about symphonies or cathedrals. We think about people. Because, of course, people are so much more valuable than a building, than a song. People are God's ultimate creation. So, Sprouts, all week we're going to be talking about people, why people are so important to the Catholic Church, why the Catholic Church leads the way in protecting those among us that are most vulnerable, those that the world might see as useless or a burden. But the Church has always and will always be the first voice to speak up for them, to defend them, and even to put our own lives at risks to serve them in the most desperate times. And so, Sprouts, as we start in on this last week of content looking at our great Catholic Church, I just ask you to join me in an Our Father, that we thank God for our church, and we also ask God to continue to protect and guide the leaders of our church here on earth. That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God created you to be. Just one more thing. As we wrap up this week and our series on the Catholic Church, we ask you to partner with us as evangelists. Let's help spread this podcast to other families and classrooms that might not know about us. It has been so important for our family to have this really easy way to get a little bit of catechesis each and every day in midst of our busy life. So think about who you can share this podcast with, who you can send a text, an email to, or who you can just mention this to the next time that you see. We're so grateful for your support, and we're so excited about starting a new year with you.
This show is a production of the Spoke Street Media Podcast Network. For more great podcasts, visit spokestreet.com.